Welcome to No More Podcast, bringing you interesting knowledge and ideas that will keep you informed and inspired.
All right, so we're diving deep into afternoon tea today.
Sounds delicious.
You know, it's a tradition most people think they know, but there's actually way more to it.
Yeah, that meets the eye for sure.
We've got articles, etiquette guides, even some personal stories here.
Cool.
We're going to debunk myths, uncover those surprising origins.
Looking forward to it.
And hey, maybe even find a little feminist power move tucked in there.
Ooh, intrigue.
Right. Like those cucumber sandwiches aren't so innocent after all.
Well, speaking of origins, it's funny how we think it's centuries old.
Right, so Victorian, right.
But it all started much later than you'd expect.
Oh, yeah, way later.
Like shockingly recent.
1840s, to be precise.
There you go.
Our girl Anna, the Duchess of Bedford, she's the reason.
The OGT queen.
You could picture this. Industrial revolution's happening, dinner's getting pushed later.
Gaslighting comes in, schedules change, everything's shifting.
And our Duchess, she's got this sinking feeling around 4 o'clock.
Not just a metaphor, she's actually hungry.
Literally. So what does she do?
Doesn't faint, thank goodness.
Calls for a tray tea, bread and butter, cake boom. Afternoon tea is born.
Just like that. A cultural phenomenon begins with a snack.
But she wasn't going to keep this goodness to herself.
Oh no, she's a socialite.
Starts inviting friends over, and things take off from there.
Those Victorian at-home teas sound wild.
I know, right? Like packed drawing rooms.
Wall-to-wall ladies in their finest, barely room to breathe.
The place to be seen. But tea wasn't just this one grand thing.
Right, it wasn't a monolith.
You had your simple teas, more intimate, close friends, smaller scale.
And the middle class, they're doing family teas, sometimes even dinner.
So it really wasn't just for the upper crust, huh?
Nope. Different strokes for different folks,
Yeah.
adapted to their needs.
Shows its lasting appeal, right?
Right.
Like flexible for everyone.
Totally.
Okay, we can't forget the star of the show, the tea itself.
Ah, yes.
Early days, it was a luxury, imported from China.
East India companies got the monopoly, heavy taxes, the whole deal.
Symbol of wealth, you know, sipping on sophistication.
But then things get really interesting.
Ooh, do tell.
So Britain's expanding its empire, right? India, Sri Lanka, those tea plantations.
Ah, so that's how Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, becomes the tea spot.
Exactly, but we gotta acknowledge that colonialism aspect.
Right, that darker side of the story.
Next time you have a cup, think about those global forces at play.
Makes you appreciate it differently, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But back then, it wasn't just about the drink, right? It was a whole production.
Oh, you're talking about the Victorian tea game, a total spectacle.
The fine china, the silver urns, mahogany caddies, everything top-notch.
Showcasing their taste, their status.
Even down to how you add milk to the tea, there were rules.
Ah, yes, the infamous milk and first debate.
I thought that was just personal preference, honestly.
Well, turns out it was practical too.
Go on.
Those fancy porcelain cups, delicate, couldn't handle the heat shock.
The milk acted as a buffer.
Exactly, prevented cracking.
Makes sense, though. I think my mug could survive a tea bomb.
Probably. But here's what I find fascinating.
I'm listening.
Afternoon tea, hosted by women in their homes, gave them a kind of power.
Wait, are we saying afternoon tea was low-key feminist?
In a way, yeah, think about it.
Okay.
They controlled the guest list, the menu, the conversation.
They were running the show.
Plus, Victorian fashion meant more relaxed clothing indoors.
Away from the male gaze, huh?
Exactly. So it becomes this space for women to connect, share ideas.
And gossip. Let's be real.
Of course, a little gossip never hurt.
So it's like a subversive act disguised as a polite gathering.
Right. You're getting it.
Love it. But tea wasn't just a Victorian thing, right?
Absolutely not.
It evolved, kept going in the 20th, 21st centuries, didn't it?
Big time. It's had a modern resurgence.
I've seen those, like, themed afternoon teas, super creative.
Yeah, innovative flavors, local ingredients, whole experiences built around it.
People are rediscovering the charm, but with a modern twist.
Exactly, adapting it to today's tastes.
And for those of us who can't always hit up a fancy hotel...
There's always the at-home option.
Right, it's a way to connect with the tradition, make it your own.
Whether it's a grand affair or a cozy living room gathering.
The essence of afternoon tea stays the same.
You got it.
Before we get to the cream or jam showdown, which we have to,
Oh, we can't avoid that.
I'm curious about the tea itself, like the different types.
Oh yeah, there's a whole world to explore.
It can be overwhelming if you're not a tea aficionado.
For sure, you've got your classic black teas.
Like what?
English breakfast,
Grr.
Earl Grey, often taken with milk and sugar.
Okay, those I've heard of.
Then there's green teas, more delicate, grassy,
Sounds interesting.
and herbal infusions, flowers, herbs, spices, the whole gamut.
So much variety. I admit I'm partial to Earl Grey. That bergamot gets me.
It's a classic for a reason.
But for a newbie, what would you recommend? Where do they start?
Well, for the classic afternoon tea vibe, you can't go wrong with a black tea.
Makes sense.
English breakfast is solid, robust, good with milk and sugar.
Good to know.
If you want something lighter, Darjeeling is nice, floral notes.
Ooh, that sounds pretty.
What about those who want to avoid caffeine?
Yeah, good point.
Herbal infusions are perfect then.
Like chamomile.
Exactly. Calming or peppermint, refreshing, aids digestion.
There really is something for everyone.
It's all about finding what you like.
I love that afternoon tea encourages that. Like, be adventurous, try new things.
It's not just about rules, it's about discovering your perfect cup.
That's the fun part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the food, the scones, the sandwiches, the pastries.
The good stuff. And speaking of scones,
Here it comes.
the elephant, or rather the scone in the room, dot cream or jam first?
The age-old question.
We got to address it.
Let's dive in. So, are you a Devonshire devotee or a Cornish champion?
I got to admit, I'm not even sure I know the difference.
Okay, well, let's break it down for our listeners, too. The great scone debate.
Lay on me.
Devonshire, you go cream first, nice and thick, then a dollop of jam.
Okay, sounds straightforward.
But in Cornwall, they're all about jam first, then the cream.
Seems like a small detail, but people have strong opinions, huh?
Oh yeah, it can get heated. But both sides have their reasons.
What's the argument for cream first, then?
Well, it's like a smooth base, the jam spreads easier, luxurious.
I get that, but jam first, doesn't that make the fruit flavor pop more?
Exactly. It's really all about what you prefer in the end.
Though, if I had to pick,
I think I know where you're leaning, being in Devon and all.
our studio's location might be influencing me just a tad.
Totally fair. I have to admit, I'm partial to the Devonshire way myself.
That clotted cream sounds divine.
It really is something special.
For those who haven't experienced it, what makes it so unique?
It's not your average whipped cream, oh no, this stuff is thick.
Like really thick.
You could practically spread it like butter, super rich.
How do they even make it?
Slowly heat full-fat milk. The cream rises, thickens up like fudge.
Wow. Sounds decadent.
Slightly sweet, nutty flavor, perfect with scones, obviously.
Okay, I'm officially craving scones now.
But let's not get too sidetracked by deliciousness. We have more tea to discuss.
Right, we were talking about the variety of teas out there.
Yes. So we got our black teas, like the English breakfast, Earl Grey.
Those are the classics, right?
Exactly, usually with milk and sugar.
And you mentioned green teas. What are those like?
More delicate, grassy flavors, totally different vibe.
I gotta try those sometime.
And of course, the herbal infusions, huge range of those.
Those are caffeine-free, right?
Right.
Good for any time.
Yep, chamomile, peppermint, all sorts of flowers, herbs, spices blended up.
It's like a whole other world. I usually just stick to my Earl Grey.
It's good to branch out, though. Afternoon tea's perfect for that.
Be adventurous.
Exactly. Not about rigid rules. Find what you love.
And speaking of finding what you love, afternoon tea has definitely changed over time.
Oh, for sure. It's not just recreating the Victorian era anymore.
There's so much innovation now.
Chefs are getting creative, local ingredients, themed experiences.
I've seen those like Alice in Wonderland tea parties. So cool.
It's about adapting to modern tastes, keeping it fresh.
Exactly. So for our listener who's new to all this, why should they care?
Afternoon tea, it's more than just food. It's a ritual, a moment to slow down.
In our busy world, we need that.
It's about savoring, connecting with history, enjoying good company.
Indulgence and connections sounds like a winning combo.
And don't forget that little bit of rebellion we talked about.
Oh yeah, that women empowering aspect.
Carving out space for a meaningful conversation.
And it's powerful stuff, even in something as traditional as tea.
So as we near the end of our tea journey today, I'm curious, knowing all this now, how would you approach afternoon tea?
That's a great question. Is it about stepping back in time?
Or indulging in delicious treats?
Or connecting with friends in a special way?
It could be all of the above, right?
Exactly. Traditions evolve, take on new meaning for each person.
What resonated with you most today?
For me, it's that feminist angle, so unexpected.
It's those hidden depths that make history so fascinating.
Totally. So, listener, we encourage you to explore your own tea journey.
Whether you're a tea pro or just curious, there's something for everyone.
And who knows, maybe you'll even start your own cream or jam debate.
Now that's a legacy to leave behind.
Just make sure to invite us when you do.
We'll bring the scones.
Deal is, until next time, happy sipping, everyone. You know, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Well, yeah.
It's how this whole thing started. Just one duchess, a little peckish.
Right. And now, look at it, a global phenomenon.
It's a testament to how traditions can evolve, you know?
Totally. They adapt, stick around, become something new.
We've covered so much ground today, it's hard to keep track.
The history, the etiquette, the social stuff, even a feminist angle.
Who knew cucumber sandwiches could be so rebellious?
And of course, the cream or jam battle. Gotta love a good food debate.
Maybe we've inspired some listeners to have those conversations too.
I hope so. A little friendly disagreement keeps things interesting.
But as we wrap up our afternoon tea adventure,
Yeah.
there's one thing I want to leave everyone with. We've talked about all the details, the rules, the history, but in the end, afternoon tea is what you make it.
That's a good point.
It's about finding what speaks to you.
The history buff might love that connection to the past.
Someone else might just want to enjoy those delicious treats.
And others might crave that special time with friends.
Exactly. So, listener, embrace the spirit of it. Make it your own.
Whether it's a fancy hotel or your own living room.
The key ingredient is you and the joy you bring to it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Who knows, maybe you'll even host your own tea party after this.
If you do, send us an invite.
Absolutely. Until next time, everyone, happy sipping.